What's up, everybody? On today's show, we'll sit down with Georgia tight end Brock Bowers as he was a finalist for the Lombardi Award, and we'll look back on his season. We'll also catch up with voice of the Longhorns, Craig Way, as the future SEC team makes the college football playoff, could face Bama again. And we'll go around the conference. We got tons of guys like Trevor Etienne, Rocket Sanders, Jacorey Brooks, all hitting the transfer portal. Locked On SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what's up, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege. Use our promo code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Daily fantasy sports made easy. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. We got plenty to discuss, so let's dive into it. Let's go around the conference.
Boots out to the right. Takes the handoff. What a catch!
Around the conference.
We start over at Alabama as Nick Saban made his weekly appearance on the Pat McAfee show on Thursday. And Pat asked him about the college football playoff and Bama getting in. And Saban said he's been getting blown up from other schools who felt Alabama was not the most deserving team to make the field. He said, my responsibility and obligation is to our team. So I did the best job I could to promote what we've been able to accomplish, winning 11 straight games and beating the number one team in the country in Georgia. We are a different team now than we were earlier in the season. Now, Eli Drinkwitz over at Missouri, stoking the fires a little bit. He was on SiriusXM Thursday, made it clear that Jordan Travis's injury at Florida State should not have had a bearing on the Seminoles being left out of the playoff despite going 13-0 and winning the ACC. Eli Drinkwitz saying, let me ask you this. If a team in the playoff has a star player get injured now, are they going to be removed from the playoff? And then we just put Florida State back in? That reasoning on the injury to Jordan Travis, he said to me, was completely nonsensical rationalization. Drinkwitz did admit being an SEC guy, but he said that one bothered me a lot. And then to not factor in maybe a team having an unfair advantage in some of their games, it just seemed like to me we were picking and choosing what lens we were going to look through. Look, the aftermath of Sunday still looms large. People are still pissed that, certain teams got in, certain teams didn't in the playoff. But I think after this week, we can maybe start to turn the page and focus on just the football because, we get it. Nobody's happy. Some teams are happy, some aren't, but playoffs are set. They're not changing. All right, let's get to some other news in transfer portal news. Over at Florida, Trevor Etienne, their stud running back, looking to go play elsewhere next season. He announced on social media Thursday he is entering into the transfer portal. He will be a true junior next year. He'll have 2 years of eligibility remaining. He was Florida's leader in rushing touchdowns this year with 8 yards per carry at 5.5 yards per carry, and then yards per game, almost 70 yards rushing per game. Now, he split the duties with Montrell Johnson, and those two guys together were really, really good. But Trevor Etienne was freshman All-SEC back in 2022. And again, very productive this season in Florida. And of course, he's the brother of Jaguars running back Travis Etienne. But Trevor Etienne, rumors are he'd like to go to Georgia. But we'll see. Georgia's got a loaded backfield already. A bunch of 5-star recruits the last couple of years. So we'll see where Trevor Etienne opts going. He is a Louisiana native, so maybe LSU could be in play. But Georgia is what a lot of people are rumbling about with Trevor Etienne. Another stud SEC running back in Arkansas's Rocket Sanders. He announced this week he is entering the transfer portal. Now, he battled injuries throughout this year, was limited to just over 200 yards, but he was an all-SEC rusher in 2022 when he ran for over 1,400 yards and 10 touchdowns. So we will see where he ends up, but a very productive running back. We had him on at SEC Media Days over the summer. Wish Rocket Sanders the best of luck wherever he ends up. Landon Jackson over at Arkansas, he announced on social media this week he will be returning to Fayetteville. He was a team captain this year, led the Hogs with 6.5 sacks. So good to get Landon Jackson back. He was another guy who was at SEC Media Days. Over at Mississippi State, wide receiver Xavier Thomas announced he will be entering the transfer portal. He was a 2022 freshman All-American. He's a Louisiana native. Maybe LSU's in play for him, but he averaged 13 and a half yards on 15 returns on special teams as a freshman. Punt return man. He was very productive and, again, really good receiver. We will see where he ends up. But, a lot of schools launching NIL initiatives. Mississippi State's got the Bulldog Initiative. Some people thinking maybe, maybe this could be a move, guys entering the portal just to maybe get a little bit more money out of their current school. You can't blame them. It's a business move, but we will see. Over at South Carolina, stud wide receiver Juice Wells, very good coming into South Carolina last year in 2022. Very productive last year, and then this year just battled injury throughout this season. And just could never get going. Xavier Leggett, jumped out there and had the huge monster year. But Juice Wells in the transfer portal, and yesterday, or a couple days ago, there were reports that he was looking at Tennessee and Texas. And then a report from On3 Sports last night that said Ole Miss and Oregon have both made a strong push for Juice Wells. So we'll see where Juice Wells ends up, but both Tennessee and Ole Miss in the SEC on his radar. And I guess we could say Texas, too. They're soon to be an SEC team. Running back at South Carolina, Mario Anderson, he has entered the transfer portal. He was their top rusher this year, finishing with over 700 rushing yards. He was a former Division II star that transferred into South Carolina. Of course, they lost Marshawn Lloyd last year. He transferred over to USC. Mario Anderson's their leading rusher this year. He's entering the portal. Good news, though, for South Carolina. Linebacker Debo Williams is reportedly coming back for one more season with the Gamecocks. He had over 113 tackles for them, ranked third in the SEC this year. So big getting Debo Williams to come back. All right, over at Alabama, they got a couple more departures recently. Wide receiver Jacorey Brooks and defensive lineman Isaiah Hastings. They were both big-time recruits. Jacorey Brooks was a 5-star recruit and, was very good for them. 900 yards, 10 touchdowns in his Alabama career. Of course, was very good a year ago back in 2022. And I'll see where he ends up. And Hastings, two really, really good players. Over at Georgia, linebacker Xavier Sori, he has entered the transfer portal. 2021, he was a 5-star prospect, the number 2 linebacker in the country. Also, Georgia wide receiver and kick returner Mekhi Muse is reportedly set to enter the transfer portal. He was their return man, very, very valuable this year. 400 kick return yards, over 200 punt return yards. So kind of a surprise there. Muse will have 2 seasons of eligibility remaining after 3 seasons in Athens. And their 5-star quarterback, Brock Vandegrift, who we knew had entered the portal, he officially announced he is going to Kentucky. So Mark Stoops gets his new quarterback in Brock Vandegrift. And speaking of Kentucky, they have guys hitting the portal. Tight end Jordan Dingle entering the portal. He's entering as a grad transfer. Was a freshman All-SEC team member there at Kentucky. So Jordan Dingle into the portal. Over at Texas A&M, Mike Elko just seeing a big overhaul flux in his roster. Former 5-star defensive lineman LT Overton has entered the transfer portal. Saw media playing time as a true freshman in 2022. Played in all 12 games, started 3 of them. This past year, played in every game at 17 tackles, 5 tackles against Ole Miss. So that's a big-time one out there in LT Overton. And then Texas A&M offensive lineman Chase Basantis entering the transfer portal, former freshman All-American. And then defensive back Tyreek Chappell entering the portal after 3 seasons with the Aggies. So big overhaul there on the roster there at A&M. Kind of expected when you make a coaching change. All right, just a couple more notes here in our Around the Conference. Over Kentucky, Ray Davis, running back, he had already announced he's going pro, but made an announcement on social media regarding the Gator Bowl. Said that, posted a video, it said chapter started September 2nd, chapter ends December 29th. That is the date that Kentucky and Clemson kick off in Jacksonville. So he will finish off his career playing in the bowl game. So look forward to seeing Ray Davis one more time out there for the Kentucky Wildcats. Over at the SEC office, they announced their official all-freshman team for this season. A couple names to note: Texas A&M running back Reuben Owens, Florida wide receiver Trey Wilson, Vandy wide receiver London Humphreys, Ole Miss linebacker Centurion Perkins, and Alabama safety Caleb Downs, who isn't just all freshmen. He is making some All-American lists out there. So one more note here, Mississippi State, Jeff Lebby, they have decided on a defensive coordinator hire. They are going to hire Alabama outside linebacker coach and special teams coordinator Coleman Hutzler. Hutzler spent several years in the SEC with Alabama, Florida, South Carolina, Ole Miss. So he will go work alongside Jeff Lebby. And over at LSU, they are bringing back offense coordinator Mike Denbrock, giving him a 3-year extension, according to reports. Texas A&M have reportedly targeted him as their next OC this offseason, but A&M or LSU cuts them off and extends Mike Denbrock, gives him a raise to keep him at LSU. Of course, coaching Jaden Daniels this year had a phenomenal year. The Aggies, they're hiring Colin Klein, the former Kansas State quarterback who has been very good as an OC. And Jaden Daniels receiving AP Player of the Year honors this week. And obviously he will be up for the Heisman Trophy this weekend. We will see if he takes home the trophy, but congrats to him. And we'll be talking with Caroline Fenton this weekend. She will be up there for the Heisman, so we'll get her reaction to what we presume will come back to the SEC with Jaden Daniels winning the Heisman. Thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Coming up next, our conversation with Georgia tight end Brock Bowers. You don't want to miss that. This episode presented to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks, the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America, the easiest and most exciting way for you guys to play daily fantasy sports. It is just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players like pros and sharks, you're just picking more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you will watch the winnings roll in. Of course, the basketball season here, now you can do basketball, you can do football, you can do a combo. You can pick, LeBron James in the more than 3-pointers made. You can do Travis Kelce in the, less than catches, whatever it is. You can do the combo there, and Prize Picks lets you do that. They even offer that reboot policy that keeps your entries in play, even if one of your players gets injured. So if you have a player who exits the game in the first half, doesn't come back in the second half, that player is rebooted. Prize Picks, the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege. Use our promo code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, it's prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege. Use promo code LockedOnCollege. It is Prize Picks, and it is daily fantasy sports made easy.
Chris Gordy here, coming to you from the Lombardi Awards here in Houston as a guy who was here a year ago. He's a finalist, semifinalist, and now here he is again in the Final Four for the Lombardi Award. He is Georgia tight end Brock Bowers. What's going on, man?
Not much, just signing some stuff and getting it done.
This has got to be a whirlwind, when you hit the award circuit, like your season ends and then suddenly you're being cast away city to city. But you did this a year ago, so it's kind of become an old hat now, right?
Yeah, I'd say. I mean, not really, but yeah, it's just a lot. Like you want to rest as soon as the season gets over and have a little free time. But I mean, we get right back into it, going into. I mean, I guess like our 1-game season coming up for the bowl game, and just traveling here and just enjoying the time.
Talk a little bit about this season for you, because obviously, you've been so productive, best tight end in the country these last couple of years, but obviously you've been able to stay healthy majority of your career, and this year that injury happens. But how are you able to come back so quick from it? Because we hear about the tightrope surgery, and it takes so many weeks, but, I mean, you were gone less than a month.
Yeah, I mean, They took care of me a lot there, and we went through like protocol and everything like that, and I started passing like the benchmarks, I guess, to get back, and I was working my way back slowly but surely, and ended up being able to play, and I mean, I just wanted to play again. I mean, that was about it. Like sitting out is terrible, so it was good to get back out there.
Yeah, it's funny because I remember some of those games they cut to you on the sideline and you just look absolutely miserable. It's just got to be, especially when your team's in a close game, it's like you want to be out there helping them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's tough.
Talk about that first game getting back out there from the surgery. I mean, were you hesitant at all? Or was it like, okay, this is all hat, I'm ready to go? Oh
yeah, I mean, I was definitely a little hesitant, but I mean, once we got out there and started playing, I mean, it was like second nature again, and I mean, it was a whole lot of fun playing back out in front of Sanford Stadium.
And obviously, you guys kept that win streak going. Let's just talk a little bit about this past week. Obviously, it was a tough battle with Alabama. I mean, from the get-go, it just felt like everything that was kind of flowing with you guys all season just wasn't flowing early on.
Yeah, I mean, we had a good first drive. Then, I mean, I felt like we were just kind of choppy on offense and defense. I mean, we couldn't really get the momentum going our way too much, and I mean, it just didn't have our best game. And I mean, there's a lot of stuff I could have done better, and I wish I would have. But I mean, it's over now and it's done with, and yeah, it just happens. It's football.
Did you feel it felt like every time the ball touched your hands, you're such an explosive player? Did you feel a step slow at all, or is it just kind of you're still just not 100%? You're working your way back to be fully healthy.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the doctor said. He said it's kind of like the new normal now, or just for now, like the next month. And yeah, I mean, I just had to get used to that, and I mean, just kind of fight through it.
Ladd went through the same stuff. I mean, he was, battling injury, and you could see. I mean, there was plays he'd make a play, and then he's limping off the field. It just had to be tough with not just you, but him trying to battle through this thing, not being 100%.
Yeah, we were both battling through it, and yeah, I mean, he was just battling, and I was happy he was able to play a little bit in that game, and at least help the team out a little bit.
Talk a little bit about making the adjustment from Stetson. Obviously, you had such great chemistry with him, and then Carson being that guy and taking over. It seemed like, man, Carson, as soon as he got out there, he was confident, and everybody was going, okay, any worries about the quarterback, he's going to be just fine. But how hard was it for you adjusting from being with Stetson all those years to adjusting to Carson?
I mean, it really wasn't too bad. I mean, me and Carson take plenty of practice reps together. Like, so, I mean, we take so many reps in practice. He knows what's happening. He knows the system in and out. And I mean, he just came in and did his thing.
It's interesting because the season ends and the transfer portal open and guys are on the move and all that. Do you have a thought on Brock? Not only is Brock Vandegrift move on, but he's going to Kentucky. He's staying in the SEC. But you got to root for a guy like that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's one of our dudes. He was my roommate, and I'm always rooting for him no matter where he ends up and is going. So I'll be rooting for him.
What was outside of the injury this year? Were there any challenges for you? Because I know you said last year the idea was to get better day by day and take your game to the next level. What were the challenges for you personally this year outside of the injury?
Some challenges this year. I mean, the main one was the ankle. I can't really. I mean, I'd say like just being frustrated sometimes and trying to work through those barriers, just because. You're just like frustrated because you want to do your best every single game and every single day, and it's just frustrating sometimes. But you got to control emotion and just focus on the next thing.
What was it like, Coach Bobo taking over the offense? And I mean, all the concerns that maybe fans or media, whoever had. I mean, it looked like you guys really didn't miss a beat. The offense flowed just as well.
Yeah, I mean, Coach Bobo was there for a year when we were there, so I mean, all the players knew him and felt comfortable with him, and I mean, he did a great job this year, obviously, and yeah, I'm just happy to be part of the system.
Give me a guy or two, either offense or defense, that you thought took a huge leap this year that really just impressed you.
Oh man, I think Dylan Bell. Dylan Bell showed up a few times in those big games and made some big plays. I think he really balled out this year. And then I'm trying to think of a defensive guy. C.J. Allen. I mean, he showed a bunch of improvement throughout fall camp and throughout the early part of the season when he was getting those twos reps and just coming in there and balling as a freshman.
Mekhi Muse was outstanding for you guys too in the return game. What a cool story that was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's a baller. We know it every day. I mean, we see it every day at practice. He's always out there making plays. He's so low to the ground. He has to be quick. And I mean, he does a great job back there returning the ball and hitting it.
Talking with Brock Bowers, and let's talk a little bit about this award, the Lombardi. It goes to, typically an interior lineman, that somebody who gets it in the trenches, that sort of thing. We know how great of a pass catch you are, but this year and last year, being recognized as a finalist here means you're doing a lot of the dirty work in that run game and helping block, right? Yeah, I mean, it's awesome to be a finalist again. I mean, I'm honored to be a part of this group of these other three guys, and I mean, just to be associated with the award is awesome too. I mean, just the history and all the players that came through and earned it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's been awesome. You have an earlier thought on the matchup. I mean, Florida State, they're angry they missed the playoffs. I'm sure you guys frustrated that y'all missed the playoffs. But this seems like a game of, people always say, maybe neither team cares. But it seems like both sides really care because you really want to go out on a high note here. Yeah,
I mean, obviously, everyone's super competitive and wants to win. I mean, that's our plan. I mean, we're not going out there to lose the game. And, I mean, we're going to give them our best shot, and they're going to give us their best shot. So, I mean, we're looking forward to it.
you got obviously some decisions to make here. You have a timeline, an idea of kind of when you'll have those discussions and make a decision, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm just kind of feeling it out right now, seeing what's happening, and just gonna talk with some more people, I guess, and see what everything looks like.
All right, best part of being here in Houston. I heard you. I interviewed you last year while you were eating Tex-Mex. This year you haven't eaten yet, but I heard you requested the Tex-Mex, right? Yeah, I'm eyeballing it right now. I mean, I request. We were on the bus and we were driving over. I was asked if we were getting Mexican food again. So yeah. Are you fajitas, queso? What's number one? Fajitas. All right. Yeah. It's meat, protein. Yeah. Meat, protein, rice. Yeah. He is Brock Bowers. Brock, thanks so much for the time, man. Congrats on a great season, and best of luck tonight, all right? Yeah, thank you.
Our thanks to Brock Bowers. This episode is presented to you by our friends over at eBay Motors. Look, we've been telling you about our friends at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. It's what brings home the winning trophy. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, rack roofs, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors, they've got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you're always going to find exactly what you're looking for. And with the eBay Guarantee Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you are burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. So go keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guarantee Fit only available to U.S. customers. It's ebaymotors.com. Rolling along here, Locked On SEC. And speaking of the SEC, there is, we got two teams coming to the SEC here in a couple months. It is Texas and it is Oklahoma. And one of those teams is in the playoff, college football playoff, along with Alabama. It is the Texas Longhorns. So we figured nobody better to get on to talk about the Texas Longhorns as they make the college football playoff than Craig Way, voice of the Texas Longhorns, legendary voice, and he joins us now. Craig, let's start here. Congrats on the Horns making the playoffs. I guess Texas is back, right?
That's been kind of a popular phrase, hasn't it? Put it this way: being in the college football playoff does give a sign that this program is moving to where they want to be in the national contending status year in, year out. It was a major step forward, no doubt about it, winning their last ever Big 12 Conference Championship before moving into the SEC next year and doing it in really dominating fashion over Oklahoma State.
Let's jump here, Craig. Can Sark win this whole thing given the challenge of facing Washington and then, perhaps having to beat Alabama again?
They'd love to have the shot at it. It would mean they're in the national championship. I believe this team believes they can beat anybody, and I think Sark said that, when they're playing like they're capable of playing, and even after losing Jonathan Brooks, they probably feel like they can compete with just about anybody. Now, they've got to play a really good game and all that, but they've proven, I think, when they're playing as well as they're capable, they can stand toe-to-toe with just about anybody in the country. You better believe when you get to this point that you can compete, no question about it.
Talking with the voice of the Longhorns, Craig Way. Craig, how nervous were folks in Austin on Sunday morning? There was no guarantee that this was going to happen.
Yeah, there might have been a little bit of nervousness, if only because it hadn't happened yet. And, things were so unusual. And in order for it to happen, obviously the committee was going to have to do something it had never done before, and that was to leave out an undefeated Power 5 conference champion. And I'm here to tell you guys, had Alabama not beaten Georgia, I don't know that Texas would have moved past Florida State. Now, I know what the eye test says, what everybody feels, but if Georgia had won and you would have had 4 unbeaten Power 5 conference champions, I think it would have been a lot easier for the committee at that point to say, let's just go status quo and keep it how it is. But once Alabama kind of upset the apple cart, it's like, well, can we really put Alabama in over Texas, who beat them in Tuscaloosa. I know it was early in the season, but it's a win is a win. And Alabama won 52 of 53 in that stadium prior to that. So could we really do that? And then I think they did even more evaluation of the three of Texas, Alabama, and Florida State, and said 2 of the 3 can go in. Who are the 2 better of the 3 teams? And I think they got it right.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that's what they said, Craig. I think they said when Bama won the championship, I think he said, well, we got to put the SEC champion in Bama. And then they all looked around the room and said, well, wait, we can't put Bama in and not Texas because of the head-to-head, which says right in the rule book, head-to-head matters. So I thought they were stuck between a rock and a hard place there.
Yeah, and it was a tough deal. I've had a lot of people ask me before this year even, would you want to serve on the college playoff committee? And I always said, yes, absolutely. Yeah, I might have a second thought about it. Now everything was what they all had to go through, but it was unique, no doubt about it. Now we'll see what the Longhorns can do in New Orleans against Washington, a really good Washington team.
Well, let's go there, Craig. A quick look ahead. What is it going to take for Texas to beat Washington?
Well, I think they're going to have enough of a rush on Michael Penix to make it very difficult for him, and so that the secondary can play as it's capable of playing. So I think that T'Vondre Sweat has to have a big game. I think the defense is going to have to be able to try to at least somewhat contain Penix to have an opportunity to win this football game. I think the offense will move the ball, and I think the offense can score points on Washington. They did it last year, even without Bijan Robinson and Roschon Johnson in the game. And Quinn Ewers had a big game against Washington, but they were, missing that element of the running game, and the defense couldn't stop Washington enough at the Alamo Bowl, and they lost 27-20. I think they can stand toe-to-toe with them, but I do believe that they're going to have to get some stops, and Sweat obviously is the anchor of that defense.
Craig, one more for you. In this world we're living in with NIL and perhaps schools maybe being able to pay players in the near future directly, as Charlie Baker proposed this week. With Texas coming to the SEC, are they ready for this and the money that it's going to take to I guess appropriate everywhere?
Sure. I mean, money is going to be the challenge for all institutions, I think, going forward. I do think the University of Texas is better positioned than most, but it's going to be a challenge. I mean, the NIL the Texas One Fund, which is the NIL arm, also will be challenged as well to continue in its fundraising efforts. So but I think this was a long time coming. Now we'll see what the next steps are going to be.
He is Craig Way. Craig, thanks so much for the time, man. Really appreciate you jumping on with us.
My pleasure. Thanks.
All right, that's Craig Way there of the voice of the Longhorns, and appreciate him. He's doing a little traveling, and appreciate him jumping on with us for a little bit to talk about Texas making the playoff. They are an SEC team. Look, when they won on Saturday, they won the Big 12, they booed the commissioner, and all the Texas fans started SEC. They're in. They're in. If Texas wins this whole thing, we're claiming part of it. The SEC, we're going to claim part of their championship. That's just how it goes. All right. Thank you guys so much for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Our thanks to our guest today, Brock Bowers, of course, finalist for the second year in a row at the Lombardi Award, for joining us. Thanks to Craig Way, voice of the Longhorns, talking a little bit of the Texas angle, making the playoff. And thank you guys for, again, making us your first listen every day, coming back and being everydayers right here on the show. Now for your second listen, you can go check out Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today, here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus all our national shows. So for your second listen, go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube, just constantly streaming 24/7 with all of our great shows and different analysts and all that. So go check that out, Locked On Sports Today. This has been Locked On SEC. I'm Chris Gordy. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Come on back and see us.